Seems awfully quiet in here this evening. Are y'all ready to begin? I'd like to call this January 25th, 2022 meeting of the City Council of Charleston to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Shaley. Here. Councilmember Saccharin. Councilmember Mitchell.
Here.
Councilmember Brady. Councilmember Gregory. Councilmember Waring. Councilmember Seekings. Councilmember Shade. Councilmember Bowden. Councilmember Appel. Councilmember Parker. Mayor Tecklenburg.
Here. And now if you would like to join us, Councilmember Mitchell will lead us in an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Mayor and council members, my colleagues, I have my minister here, Reverend Colin Middleton, and he's going to do the invocation right here for me now. He's over there. Please to the mic. My kind of heart is kind of heavy, so I asked him to come and do the invocation for me. Thank you.
Perfect. Welcome, Councilmember and Reverend Middleton.
Let us pray. It's not my mother, not my father, but it's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's not Europe or Asia, but it's the United States that's in need of prayer. God, specifically Charleston, South Carolina, we stand in the need of prayer. Tonight we come praying in this city council meeting, asking God that your divine presence be in this place today. We ask God for your touch on our mayor and our city council members and all of those within the confines of city government, the citizens of the city of Charleston, South Carolina. We come united, recognizing, God, that the history, the legacy, the earth on which we stand is hallowed. This is the holy city. So we come tonight asking, God, that the spirit of reconciliation reigns and rules in this place. We ask you now, God, to bring us together through unity. And we ask in everything that is good, that you continue to hold us together by the hand so that we may be so mindful of even those who we consider to be the least of us, that their livability in this place can be honored and they can thrive. And then, God, we pray for peace from Broad Street all the way to Romney Street. We pray for peace from the Cooper River to the Ashley River. We pray for peace from the edges and outskirts of the city limits. We ask, God, that you allow us to live harmoniously, not as people over people, but as citizens united together, loving one another, doing those things that lift our entire community. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So just a little announcement. In the most unlikely event that we were called upon to evacuate the building, really the only ways out are these two doors and the door to the room over to my right. And then if that were to occur, we ask you not to use the elevator, but to use the two stairs going down to the first floor and then the one big stair going out the front of the building. That's our way out. Very unlikely, but just want everybody to be situationally aware of that. Now next, just and by way of explanation, we did have the requirement tonight to add an item for an executive session. It's a legal matter that, it's a settlement that calls for a quick response. Senator Sandy Sin has been representing us on the opioid lawsuit litigation that we've been involved in really for some time now. So the way timing works out, we have so many people signed up for citizens participation, and we're on a strict deadline to start State of the City at 6 o'clock. What I'd like to ask council to consider is have a motion to go into and amend the agenda to go into executive session after we give approval of the minutes at item G on our agenda, which should be in short order, like 5:30. We do the executive session, have the State of the City, then come back for our citizens' participation. Does that sound like a plan? Can I entertain a motion to amend the agenda? Okay, any discussion about that? Ideas? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? And let the record show that this is a matter that needs our immediate attention. Exigent is the right word, I believe. Okay, so we originally had 3 presentations. We're only going to do 2 this evening, and it's maybe a stroke of fate that our next meeting will be on Johns Island. And so appropriate to honor Abe Jenkins, who is Mr. Johns Island, at our next meeting. And it'll be more convenient for the family to join us. So item 1, we're going to defer until our next meeting. And so we go right to our presentation of the City of Charleston Minority and Women Business Enterprise Business Spotlight Awards. And I want to ask Ruth Jordan to come up here and join me. And I'm going to shout out to the honorees. Councilmember Gregory. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We should, unless you're speaking, it's a city policy in city building. So I would ask everybody in the room, including Councilmember Parker, to please wear a mask while we're here. If you're not willing to wear a mask, you can attend the meeting virtually, either on your phone or online. And Councilmember, if you'd like to use the computer right across the hall, that would be fine as well. That would be your choice. We ask you to please either wear a mask or attend virtually. Thank you. So Ruth, if you join me up here, there are, we have this program, y'all, where we honor every month a minority or women-owned business. And then at the end of the year, we ask all 12 of them to join us. And then I'm just going to shout out the names of these 12 firms and their owners, and then ask Ms. Jordan to make some remarks about this program. There's Charleston's Rigging. They're joining us virtually. I hope we'll be able to see them on the screen behind me. Charleston's Rigging and Marine Hardware with Jessica Sage. Inspired by Annette Event Planning and Rentals, Courtney Scipio. Old Whaling Company, April Budney. Hard Hat Transportation, Frank Ankrum. Trash Girl, LLC. I'm sure you see those lovely containers around town. Melissa Paluda. MCC Property Solutions, Inc. Chantel Matney. Ed Rush Consulting and Development Group, LLC. Ms. Keena Edwards. Lee H. Moultrie and Associates, led by Lee Moultrie. 2 Exposure Digital Media LLC, led by Daryl Goodman. Wellness and Beyond LLC, led by Nilsi Rapallo. E2 Exhibits and Displays Inc., led by Eileen Easler. And WW Productions Inc., led by Karen Wright Chisholm. And now for a few words from our wonderful Minority Business and Women Enterprise Director, Ruth Jordan. Ruth?
Thank you, Mayor. So on behalf of the City of Charleston, Office of Women Minority Business, a division of Business and Neighborhood Services, this is a program that we do for our women minority-owned businesses. As you know, small businesses is the backbone of our community. It is through our small businesses, and particularly our women-owned businesses, that keep our economy going. And we would like you all to please support our women minority-owned businesses. We accept nominations from the community. We oftentimes say, if you know of a great small business that's doing great things, keeping their business going and supporting the community, go to our website and nominate a great small women minority-owned business. And again, council members, thank you for supporting our program, and we hope to do more, look for greater things in 2022. Thank you.
And thank you to all our honorees here who are with us tonight virtually. Congratulations. Keep up the good work. We're behind you all the way and hope you have a very prosperous 2022. God bless. Thank you for being with us. So next up is a presentation on our wonderful Keep Charleston Beautiful program and the impacts it has. And I want to recognize, even though she's maybe not making a presentation, is Jamie Gillette in the room. Jamie, are you with us? There you are. So Jamie is in our Parks Department and runs our Keep Charleston Beautiful program, an amazing amount of coordination, working with our citizens to help keep Charleston clean. And we're going to talk some more about that later tonight. But right now, I'm going to call up Mallory Kofi with Keep South Carolina Beautiful. She's the state leader and is going to make some remarks about our Charleston program. Mallory.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Mallory Coffey, Palmetto Pride's Keep South Carolina Beautiful state leader. And Mayor, as you just said, Jamie Gillette is she's an amazing woman, and she is doing great things in the city of Charleston. As some of you may know, this program has been around for nearly 75 years, and Jamie's been here for about 6-7 years now. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, much better. And we're just here today to really explain the things that Jamie, the volunteers, and the board members of Keep Charleston Beautiful do. We have nearly 36 affiliates across South Carolina and more than 700 across the entire nation. Whenever I'm asked, what affiliate should I look at for an example, or who does this beautification program, who does this graffiti program, who does this litter pickup program, Jamie is always Keep Charleston Beautiful within the, excuse me, I will get that in a moment. She is in the top 5 affiliates that I always talk about. The programs that she does, council members, when you look in your books that Jamie has created about the annual report, I guarantee you there is no other affiliate in this state, and I would probably put her up against the others in the nation as well, that go out and do the number of programs that they have and have the impacts that this affiliate and the volunteers in this community has. This affiliate receives grant funds from Palmetto Pride, Keep South Carolina Beautiful, and Keep America Beautiful, and some other sponsorships and donations. And the city, thank you so much for providing her salary and her truck and her office. All of her programs are run off of grant funds. And when you guys look through this manual of all the great things that she does, oh my, like, when do you sleep? That's what I want to know. When does she sleep? When do the volunteers sleep? It's such an impactful story that Keep Charleston Beautiful has to share, not only with the city, its volunteers, the state, and this nation. It just makes me want to move down here and work with Jamie every day. And the volunteers.
You're welcome to. We got plenty.
Oh, I know. I should just travel on down, bring my 160 acres and all my cows, right? You'll help me with that too, right, Jamie? Yeah. So I just want to congratulate you all and thank Jamie for what she does. She's an award-winning affiliate director. The affiliate's award-winning. And y'all, when you look through this annual report, all you have to do is call her, email her, you can text her, get in touch with her on social media, and she will invite you to any pickup that is going on, to any beautification project. If you like to remove graffiti, she'll put you to work. She'll put you to work today. If you want to remove decals that don't need to be on signs, she'll give you a scraper and she'll put you to work. Or if you just want to go into schools and talk about litter and beautification, recycling, anything that you're into when it comes to keeping a beautiful, clean, green community, she has a job for you today. So So thank you for the support that you all give, Mayor, council members. It's greatly appreciated. And again, congratulations, Jamie, for all of your hard work and success. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, Mallory. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for that recognition. And Jamie, you really do, it's already been said so well, but you do such a terrific job. We're going to offer our citizens even more opportunities in 2022, which we're going to announce later this evening to clean up this town. All right.
Mr.
So,
Mayor, Mr. Mayor.
yes, sir.
So as you know, Councilmember Waring, at our West Ashley Revitalization Commission meetings have talked about focusing more on West Ashley, and appreciate the recognitions that we're getting tonight on the citywide project. And we want to partner some more with West Ashley. Teresa Charleston has been a very vocal proponent of all that. So let's keep the momentum going, and don't forget about what we need to do in West Ashley. So I just want to make that plug for us.
Yes, yes, sir. Absolutely. So next we have some public hearings. I think we have 4 of them tonight. Mr. Morgan, do you want to announce these for us as we go?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we have the presentation up here. We begin with item E1, which is a rezoning at 2003 Cherry Hill Lane in the peninsula. It's about 2/3 of an acre. It is part of a tract that is already has some heavy industrial zoning on it on the northern end in the darker red, and it has general business zoning on the remainder of the parcel. And the applicants are interested in extending that heavy industrial zoning for a heavy industrial use on the northern end of the parcel, and then they would use the remainder of the parcel for residential purposes. In our comprehensive plan, the entire parcel is shown as industrial. And this is an image from the comprehensive plan showing that item, that site. Here is an aerial image of the site, and you can see that it currently houses industrial operations, container storage, a warehouse, things like that. Our future public service yard is to the east. If you'll see where it says city property, that is adjacent at this tract to the east or to the southeast. And then there are other industrial sites further to the north, and there is a small residential enclave, the 4 Mile community to the west, and then other general business type uses to the south and southwest. Here's another image of the site in use. Another image of the site, and you see our future public service yard in the distance at the top of the image here. And here's a view from Cherry Hill Lane. So that is the portion of the property that would have the heavy industrial use. And here is another image of the property across Cherry Hill Lane. And this went before our planning commission, and they recommended approval of the heavy industrial zoning 7-0.
Terrific. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Would anyone like to be heard on this matter? Please come forward.
Vote for approval.
I have a motion to approve. I do have one person who would like to be heard on this matter. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Mr. Mayor, what is the time limit?
A minute and a half this evening since we're on a schedule.
I'm going to speak on all 1 to 4 because there's some errors that were made that were corrected by the clerk regarding my past public comments regarding zoning, which is a police power. And so I'm deeply concerned in terms of my name. So I want to clear this up with my name in that area and these 4 zonings, because the Senate and redistricting, it's about land use and space. And Mr. Appel and I talked about that, about land use and space, period. Okay, and a senator in the redistricting said that Charleston County is race neutral. Senator Marlon Kempson. I made my public comment on redistricting regarding land use policies August 10th, 2021. And so Senator Kempson and Senator Sin probably too, because of my comment, because of their investments and money being made, LLCs, hedge funds, you don't know making money around here no more, in the local banks. And so I'm deeply concerned about that. And so I shared some supported documents with the clerk that need to be added to that regarding my name, Anthony G. Bryant, because I don't live in California, in Los Angeles, and I've been here 10 years in Charleston. So somebody put something out there as far as
Time.
yeah, I'll get back to that later.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to be heard on this matter? We have a motion on the floor to approve.
Mr. Mayor, we did have someone who signed up virtually, Brian Riley. If you're on, if you could press *6.
Yes, good evening, Mr.
Brian
Mayor.
Riley.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Your audio is very low.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Yeah, this is Brian Riley with Thomas and Hutton on behalf of the applicant. Appreciate your time. I'm just here if there's any questions related to the zoning application.
Answer any questions if we haven't. Okay, the matter before council, we have a motion on the floor. Any questions or discussion?
Mayor, there is one person who signed up in person, Matt Poindexter, to speak on this public hearing. Is he here?
Okay. Any questions? Comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Number 2.
Okay. This is an item on the, in Daniel Island, on Island Park Drive. It's a very tiny parcel that is in the midst of the golf course. This would be a rezoning from the Daniel Island Residential District to the Daniel Island Conservation. This is to put a cell tower in, and I believe they've been working with the community over there to find the most innocuous location for the cell tower. And I think the fact that this has gone through pretty well is a sign that they probably have. Just some images here. Again, the green shows the park area of the golf course on Daniel Island. It is in a grove of trees. I believe we have an aerial image. You can kind of see it here with the arrow that's pointing to it, not near houses. And I believe we have one more image that shows a little bit closer. So again, as inobtrusive as a cell tower can be, I think. And the Planning Commission reviewed this and recommended approval. Oh, here's some more images of it here as well. And that's just a grove of trees. And again, Planning Commission did recommend approval.
Would anyone like to be heard on this matter? Yes, sir. This is regarding a rezoning on Daniel Island. Yes, sir.
Anthony G. Bryant, 2923 Cortland Avenue, Charles, South Carolina 29403, regarding the rezoning of Daniels Island. And it's about police power. Again, it's in the comprehensive plan. Basically, this is land use. This is density being taken up that could be used for other things. Daniels Island will be a part of the redistricting plan in the city of Charleston, and did these types of zonings and past zonings diluted the Black vote. 1. 2, that Senator Marlon Kempson and others in the Senate in the redistricting of congressional seats believe that Charleston is race neutral. There's no need for race conscious politics any longer.
Thank you, sir.
And Mayor, we've had 2 people sign up online, Brian Riley.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me again?
I can now. Please proceed. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Brian Riley with Thomas and Hutton Engineering. Appreciate your time. Here on behalf of the applicant, if council members or yourself have any questions related to this application.
Thank you.
Greg Keating. Greg.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, my name is Greg Keating. I'm the president and CEO of the Daniel Island Club, and here in case you have any questions for us with regards to this application.
Anyone else? Hearing none, it comes to council. We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 3.
Okay, E3 is an ordinance amendment. It's an amendment that would allow for alternates for our design review board. Our BAR boards currently have alternates, and this is very helpful, particularly with our design review type boards because of conflicts with various members because of the specialized nature of the items they review. And this would just add them for the DRB. The text is in your packages and is shown on the screen here, but essentially would add for 2 additional members to the DRB for alternate purposes. And the Planning Commission and staff recommended approval of this, and it was a 7-0 vote at Planning Commission.
All right. Would anyone like to be heard on this matter? Yes, sir. This is regarding adding alternates to our design review board.
Planning Enabling Act of 1994 provides for city councils to appoint however they want to appoint the boards. Because of the lack of inclusion, diversity, equity, and now race neutral policy, will there be other folks in line to become members, people that just have a concern and interest from the community standpoint, like in Robert Mitchell's district and others who may be impacted and affected by specifically very technical people that have some serious biases by using their technology and their skill sets to be biased in a systemic kind of way.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to be heard? Hearing none, it comes to council. This is for second reading. Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now for third reading and ratification. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Mr. Morgan.
Okay, and item, get the slide to advance. Okay, here we go. Okay, so E4 is a zoning for a recently annexed property at 326 Geddes Avenue in West Ashley. It's nearly a half-acre tract. In this area, when properties come into the city, they've typically been R4 in Charleston County, and we recommend them for SR1, which is the closest compatible city zoning district, and that is the recommendation for this site. And here is an image of it in our new comprehensive plan and suburban edge, which is in line with this. And this is in the outer areas of West Ashley, and we have recommended through the Planning Commission 7-0 for this SR1 for the property.
And we let someone from District 5 slip in. Would anybody like to be heard on this matter? Please come forward. Yes, sir.
Anthony Bryant, for the chairman of the Public Safety Commission. I just received a letter from the Supreme Court, Susan Primprong, Bryant versus Bank of America, Bryant versus Comcast Corporation in protest against the chairman of public safety in terms of annexations coming in the city of Charleston, West Ashley, whatever, from 1974 to now. Did those annexations lead to the dilution of the Black vote? And secondly, is race conscious policy so necessary if single member districts was used to mitigate those biased issues for 54 years?
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to be heard? Hearing none, it comes to council. We have a motion to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we would be approving our minutes, but they're not ready. So we're going to defer the January 11th minutes to our next meeting. It was a 5-hour meeting, so they want to review that one more time, apparently. So could I entertain a motion that we go into executive session? All right, and this is for the purpose of reviewing the settlement of an opioid lawsuit that we're engaged in. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Y'all, we're going to go across the hall to my office, and they're going to set up for the State of the City, which will be back just prior to 6 o'clock. It's only going to be 15 minutes. That's all they've allowed. And then we'll proceed after that with our citizens' participation period. Thank you for your patience. Be back in a little bit. Will Caroline be able to? All right, if I could call y'all back to order. We'll get going again. We are now back in order. And the next item on our agenda is our citizens participation period. As council knows, we haven't yet given second and third reading to our new protocol. If y'all want to accept that, we'll have that on the agenda later this evening. So we do have 22 people in person and 29 people online that signed up. And I would like to give everyone a minute. So that will run us over our 30 minutes again. But I think, given folks, we found given less than a minute makes it hard for people to even get their thoughts out. So if that's okay with council, we'll proceed. Madam Clerk will call y'all's name and please come right to the mic. Give us your name and address and a minute of your comments. We look forward to hearing from everyone. Madam Clerk.
Anthony Bryant.
Anthony G. Bryant, 2123 Cortland Avenue, South Carolina, 29403, since 1968. The question with the opioid piece is amazing that Sandy Sin helped the police department for years arrest African Americans and justified even excessive use of force against Black people that did this opioid piece. That's pretty serious to be a state senator. With 13 sheriffs in South Carolina that broke state and federal laws, supported by U.S. magistrates, and excessive use of force, by and large, against Black people since 1986 in the first crime bill under Joe Biden. So that's why I wanted to say tonight, maybe I don't have common sense, and maybe I'm one of the people you call it out, but I'm telling you what, it's a shame before God that all these Black folk have been humiliated in this city all these years. And hear that speech. That's your free speech. I disagree with it.
Time.
But you off.
Thank you, sir.
Michael Kogan.
Dr. Michael Kogan, 1 King Street. Your Honor, members of the council, 2 of your number having flipped their votes, you were about to establish the so-called new commission on so-called racial reconciliation, a move that most of you know your constituents oppose. Councilman Shade assures me that this new committee is totally different from the old, with a very pared down agenda from the extremist propositions of the old committee. You can prove his words to be true by seeing that the members of the old committee who presented the extremist agenda which you rejected do not serve on this new committee. If they do so serve, the people of Charleston will know that despite the change in name of the committee, we're still dealing with the same extremist divisive agenda that the first committee was responsible for. So do not go down that road. We need peace in this city, not racial division. Thank you.
Mary Neal Burkall.
Mary Neal Burkall, 97 Chadwick Drive, Charleston. I'm in full support of establishing the committee. I agree with your words 2 weeks ago, Mayor, when you so passionately stated your wish to make Charleston a better place for all citizens and to reduce the vast disparities across education, life expectancy, housing, and policing. You ask, what are we going to do about it? Mayor and council, you have a perfect opportunity before you to reduce racial disparity in policing via the audit. Yet we have tried unsuccessfully to speak with you over the past year. That effort is failing. We are committed to help the city realize our holy city. Mayor, please ensure integrity for Charleston's commitment to racial equity by meeting with Charleston Area Justice Ministry before another year passes with no progress on reducing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Betsy Martin.
Yes, ma'am.
Betsy Martin, 6 Smith Street. I am here tonight asking you to vote in favor of the ordinance establishing the Human Affairs and Racial Coalition Committee. While some suggest that this committee will be divisive, I believe the opposite. To have true reconciliation in our community, we must show with our actions to equity. I believe we must establish this strong mechanism for communication as we grapple with the complex issues of our shared history and our shared future. If we want unity in our community, we need to support the establishment of this Committee on Human Affairs and Racial Coalition. Thank you.
Taylor Daniels.
Hey, my name is Taylor Daniels, and I live at 90 Drake Street. I fully support the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. I urge the mayor and the city council to vote in favor of the official establishment of the commission and to continue working towards advancing racial equity by also voting in favor of the commission's previous and future recommendations. Look at your agenda. Right after this, they're doing appointments for a municipal golf course commission. How do we have a commission on golf and not racial equity? It doesn't make any sense. In fact, Ross Appel and Caroline Parker are two people who are going to be appointed to this commission, yet they voted against the Racial Equity Commission. I think we need this Racial Equity Commission to bring ourselves back in
Time.
focus.
Thank you.
Bruce Burris.
Hello, Don, Councilman. I want to tell some good news about Charleston right now. My son, Lieutenant Burris, spent 7 years as a lieutenant in the Navy, 3 years on the USS Gettysburg, 4 years special ops. Well, he has just been appointed by a group and the president to the White House Fellow Scholarship Program. 60 people from the United States, one from one state, our guy is from Charleston, my son, and 10 from at-large people. So he will have the ear to the White House, obviously. And I urge you, it was on the internet today, I don't know if the paper covered it. However, politics are local. I want him to be able, and he travels all over the country, to tell people in Costa Mesa,
Time.
that Charleston's a great place. Do your job.
Eugene Kuhn.
Good evening. My name is Eugene Kuhn, and I reside at 1862 Cestus Lane in Charleston. I speak tonight in support of the ordinance creating a standing Human Affairs and Racial Reconciliation Commission. In our history, the city of Charleston bears responsibility in the advent of slavery, secession, and racial injustice. Therefore, it is fitting that we create a standing commission that will work to right these wrongs and ensure we build a city whose prosperity benefits everyone. Certainly, we all agree that racial harmony, equity, and inclusion is a public good. How might we promote such a public good? Through the establishment of a standing commission such as this ordinance brings about. Given our past and given our present, the creation of the commission would be a giant step in the progress of racial harmony, equity, inclusion, and more. Equity in human affairs ensures prosperity for humanity, and that is our responsibility. To create a city whose prosperity and peace is a benefit
Time.
equally.
India.
India Buncombe, 14 Strawberry Lane. This city was built on the backs of my ancestors, and I'll do everything I can in my power to stand up for them since they couldn't do it for themselves because of the oppression that they had to carry due to the injustice and the discrimination and hardships weighing down on them. But after the day, I hope that there's a future where no one has to carry that on their shoulders. I don't want my future kids or any Black or brown kids having to fight the same battles that me and my ancestors had to fight. I'm here today to stand, hopefully for the last time, to urge the council and the mayor to vote in favor of the commission today. You could be a part of the right things that could be a better Charleston tomorrow.
Jessica Wright.
Good evening. My name is Jessica, and I strongly support the permanent establishment of the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. I invite you to take a look around the room, specifically at the sculptures and portraits on display today. The proof of institutional privilege and unequal access to power surrounds us. Since its founding, this country and city have systemic forces at play that continue to the present day to disadvantage and hold back BIPOC individuals and communities. If you believe racial equity is not a problem in Charleston, congratulations. You are probably part of the white privileged caste. I invite you, City Council, to listen to BIPOC voices and leadership in this city that tell us that this commission is necessary. We know for a fact that BIPOC members of this community face unequal housing, policing, access to health, education, and economic opportunities, and more. This commission is an opportunity to understand and rectify, and as such, I urge the City Council.
Time.
Thank
Peyton Davis.
My name is Peyton Davis. I've grown up in Charleston my entire life. And in 2015, I went to the church where Daniel Roof, forgot his name, it's a good thing. Dylan Roof assassinated several people, and that affected the Black people in the city. And as one, I always expected the city to do something to genuinely impact and improve life for Black people. All I saw was Charleston Strong, only saw performative action. And today we have a chance to actually work towards genuine work for the Black community. So I encourage you guys to make the right choice.
Marcus McDonald.
My name is Marcus McDonald, and I'm the lead organizer of Charleston Black Lives Matter, substitute teacher at Burke, and today is my 25th birthday. I urge the City Council to vote in favor of the Human Relations and Racial Conciliation Commission as originally amended, and I'd like to point out that much of the opposition has been coming from places like Charlotte, Spartanburg, and Rock Hill, Mount Pleasant, but I want to let y'all know this is Charleston right here, and I don't want anybody calling us divisive and racist, but even before me, we done united so many people, age, sex, race, all of that. So don't call us divisive. We done united everybody around here under this. And I want to say this as well. We were supposed to honor Abraham Jenkins today, may his soul rest in power. And he fought his whole life for racial equity and justice. Dr. Martin Luther King fought his whole life for racial justice and racial equity, and he died violently. Reverend Clementa Pinckney fought his whole life for racial justice and racial equity, and he died violently. How many more of us will have to die before the city realizes that racial harmony has not been achieved? We must take the steps to achieve that in the city, where less of us die, more of us to have a full, long life. So again, I urge y'all to continue working.
Marcus Miles.
My name is Marcus Miles, 517 Beechcraft Street, West Asheville. I fully support the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission, and I urge the mayor and the city council to vote in favor of it and for the future establishment of it. It just seems like time and time again, same things happening. And it seems like y'all up here while everybody else is kind of down here, and y'all have the power to change that for future comings or whatever the future may hold pretty much. And so I strongly urge y'all to pass it on and just keep everybody equal and make it equal, because we can't move forward if everybody's like arguing back and forth. So strongly urge y'all to do that. Appreciate you.
And I believe this is Kaylin Hall or Kaylin Hill.
Good evening. My name is Kayla Hill of 75 Poplar Street, Charleston, South Carolina, and I fully support the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. I urge the mayor and the city council to vote in favor of the official establishment of the commission and to continue working towards advancing racial equity by also voting in favor of the commission's previous and future recommendations. Thank you.
James Yanni.
Mayor, Council. James Yanni, 22 Church Street. And, I agree and listen and hear the hearts on both sides, actually. I think everybody wants the same thing. I'm just very concerned about the actual way things have been written and have been handled. And I would just encourage the city council to look at things that I think are divisive, that are kind of national movements that are really using racism to stop racism, which I think is an oxymoron. And I think that we have to stop things such as CRT and 1619 to be utilized to poison the minds of our children. I do inner city ministry with Reverend Jimmy Gallant, and we know this would not be a good effect on the children, especially, and going ahead. But I do approve of coming up with a commission that can solve these problems rationally and with things that will be empowered through God's wisdom. And I listened to the prayer in the beginning, and I fully agree to the prayer. We just have to do it and think about it thoroughly and do it properly.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sally Young.
Hello, I'm Sally Young. I'm a resident of West Ashley, fourth generation Charlestonian, member and lay leader at the Cathedral of St. Luke and St. Paul's, and public librarian. I strongly support the establishment of the Human Affairs and Racial Reconciliation Commission. Generations after enslaved peoples built this city, the rights and opportunities of their descendants continue to be limited in Charleston. When this happens, our whole community suffers, but not all bear the true weight of that suffering. Now is a moment to move forward, bearing one another's burdens, to grow a stronger, more equitable community for all. As a public librarian, I have seen the support gaps in education, housing, healthcare, workforce, social services, and more, particularly for our neighbors of color. We can and must do more. The City of Charleston has already made a commitment to prioritize equity and inclusion.
Thank you very much.
And I believe this is W.G. Casenta. All right, Sydney Gilbreth.
My name is Sydney Gilbreth, and I live at 428 Ray Street in downtown Charleston. I fully support the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. I'm urging the mayor and city council to vote in favor of the official establishment of the commission and to continue working towards advancing racial equity by also voting in favor of the commission's previous and future recommendations. I'm hoping this will work towards the expulsion of racism in our city of Charleston.
Chase Heffron.
Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Chase Heffron, 29 Oak Forest Drive. And I'd like to express my support for the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. I want to urge you, Mr. Mayor and Council, to support this commission as well. I grew up in Charleston. I think we're all familiar with gentrification and its effects and how it's particularly hit the African-American community really hard. And they're also disproportionately affected by poverty and incarceration, and that's something that needs to change. And I believe this commission will act as a catalyst for bringing about serious racial equity, serious change for the people, and that's something that we'll all benefit from. Thank you.
Beth Webb Hart.
Good evening. My name is Beth Webb Hart, and I've lived in the city of Charleston for 25 years now as a writer, teacher, member of the Cathedral of St. Luke and St. Paul, and a mother, grateful for the opportunity to raise my children in a place known for its natural wonders, hospitality, robust faith communities, and commitment to the arts. I'm here to voice my support for the establishment of the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission because its purpose of identifying disparities is an essential first step in our collective hopes and aims of providing equal access to every one of our citizens. I know the splendor of our city is not just a facade, one-dimensional and capable of collapse, and that the ancient definition of hospitality, to see the plight of those in need and serve them, can be fully realized in this place. Thank you.
Parker Ussery.
Hi, my name is Parker Estery. I live at 226 Palmetto Bluff. I'm here to tell you that I am in full support of the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. As a sophomore in high school in Mount Pleasant and a member of the youngest generation, I am part of the future that you're working towards. My generation needs you to approve this commission. We are the ones that will be here the longest to live in the effects of the decisions that you make. Do this for us. There are large racial disparities that still exist today and affect the lives of Black folks living in Charleston. If you choose to vote against the commission, you are making a conscious choice to be complicit in the oppression of Charleston's Black community. There can be no more excuses. Act now in support of racial equity for our city, or else you're not working for the good of the people that you claim to serve. Thank you.
Bill Hecht.
Good evening. My name is Bill Hecht. I'm at 1 Meeting Street. I'm here to speak about the Commission on Racial Harmony. And I'm also here to represent the Coalition on Racial Harmony. There's 1,551 petitioners that have signed urging the council to first reject the commission as it's written. And the key words are as it's written. Number two, to delay until it's written properly. There is a reason why the first commission failed. And from a standpoint of it going forward, we'd like, if there is to be a commission, for it to be successful. We'd like to thank Commissioner Shade as well as the mayor for productive conversations this week. And we'd like to continue those productive conversations into the future. Thank you very much.
Mohammed Idris.
Racism is dead. We need to implement the ethics laws that we already have. Anytime a Black man could come from Africa, marry a white woman from Kansas, produce a baby that became the president of the United States and got elected twice, know for surety racism is dead. We are not suffering from racism. We are suffering from greed, envy, jealousy, and ignorance. That's what we are suffering from. Thank you.
And we will move on to our virtual list. And I think that we have that ready to go. Our first speaker online is Reverend Cecilia Armstrong. If you could press *6.
In person. I am Reverend Cecilia Armstrong. May I begin? You're here in person. I'm here. I made it.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I stand on behalf of the Charleston Area Justice Ministry. I'm the associate pastor at St. James Presbyterian Church on James Island, and the 40 other congregations that make up that organization. And those 40 congregations have an average worship attendance of over 10,000 folks, and their reach in the community is even further, and you know that. We call on you tonight to vote yes and support the formation of the Human Affairs and Racial Coalition Committee. And CAJM's vision is for our community to build a community where justice and equity prevail. This committee will help move us forward towards that vision. We also call on you, Mayor Tecklenburg, to sit down with us and address the shortcomings of the implementation of the police audit. The audit was the city's first true test at racial equity and a step in making sure CBD is functioning fairly without discrimination and without bias. And so using the audit as an example, it can be perceived that the city's not being genuine in the pursuit of equity. So I invite you, I encourage you to meet with us and address these concerns.
Judy Dixon. And if you're online, if you could press *6.
Hi, this is Judy Dixon. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Well, this is, Judy Dixon, and I live currently on Daniel Island. I fully support the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission and urge the City Council to vote in favor of its official establishment to continue working towards advancing racial equity in Charleston. As a white woman, I recognize that my lived experience has been very different than that of my Black or brown peers and fellow citizens of Charleston. From opportunities in housing and education to professional mentoring, and frankly, just getting the benefit of the doubt. I don't deserve those opportunities any more than my Black or brown colleagues, and my children don't deserve those opportunities any more than their children. It is my hope that Charleston's leadership and citizens be open to this continued dialogue and to keep learning, or perhaps unlearning, to borrow a phrase from Rachel Cargill, so that Charleston can continue to evolve. Thank you.
Margaret Seidler. Margaret Seidler. Christine Jennings.
I'm Christine Jennings. I live in West Ashley. I support the commission. Council has a framework to seriously engage in the conversation of racial equity and a means to turn our apology for slavery into reductions in vast disparities. And that is inspiring. But we don't have to wait for action to happen somewhere in the future. We have a racial bias audit of CPD right here in our lap. It shows massive disparities. Black people were arrested 3.8 times the rate of white people. Black drivers were arrested for suspended licenses 12.5 times more, and for marijuana possession 9.4 times the rate of whites. 2.5 years into the audit, no progress has been made to reduce disparities. More frightening is that CPD will not acknowledge that reducing disparities is the goal of implementation. Mayor, you asked, what are you going to do about disparities? Demand a reduction plan from CPD now. Thank you for your time.
Jerome Harris.
Jerome Harris, 528 Cecilia Cole Drive. As a member of the much maligned Special Commission that's often work is often misrepresented, I was encouraged to read the comments and see the support for the commission on the second reading. It reflects an attempt to reconcile deeply polarized opinions that have become the basis for vitriol and division in Charleston. The continued opposition to putting in place a compromise that would allow citizens and the members of the council to engage in an intentional set of discussions on the future of race relations and racial justice is reminiscent of the backlash experienced in the 1960s over desegregation and dismantling of Jim Crow. I urge council to pass the ordinance tonight. I also call on those members who are in opposition to identify a proposal in the report that you can support and work to bring it to fruition. By doing so, you will contribute to building community rather than feeding polarization that leads to chaos.
Time.
Again,
Mike Trama. Mike Trama. Roman Hams.
Hi, Roman Hammis, James Island. Last meeting, we learned from a College of Charleston professor who's a supporter of the commission that the term Southern hospitality should be extricated from our vocabulary. Is there any clearer example that the people supporting this commission want to turn our culture on its head? It's time to say no. I ask you to please vote no on the commission. Thank you.
Mara Brockbank. Mara Brockbank.
This is Margaret Seidler.
Ms. Seidler, please proceed.
I'm Margaret Seidler and reside at 45 Coburg Road. As an 8th generation Charlestonian, I want to invite each member of council to open your hearts and vote tonight on this third and final reading to establish the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. Yes, much has happened in our city's history, and we recognize that none of us can change the past. Yet your vote in favor tonight can provide our citizens a structured way to gain the tangible benefits of moving forward together. Any further delay will keep us from getting to the important work at hand. Thank you.
Katie King. Katie King. Reverend Jimmy Gallant.
Reverend Jimmy Gallant asked me to speak for him. He's with a family matter out of town. Again, he wanted to express and encourage the council members that. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Joyce Myers. Joyce Myers. Reverend Charles Hayward.
I grew up on Johns Island and never thought that this council would take and pursue equity and justice seriously. I'm Charles Hayward, Johns Island, South Carolina. Your action to conduct a police audit for racial bias gave me hope for what the future might hold. The information of the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Committee would be a continued pursuit of equity, justice, and hope for all residents of Charleston. What would make our city apart from others is not to wait, but to have a unanimous vote of yes. As a Black husband, father, grandfather, and Christian pastor, my faith tradition declares that doing justice, ensuring the policies and practices of fairness is the weightier matter of the law. Jesus was always questioning and drawing attention to the unfair laws of the Roman Empire. Let us make Charleston more historic and equitably beautiful. The report that you have received proposed questions of unfairness in our.
And was Joyce Myers trying to join? Joyce Myers. Sully Sullivan.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Yes. Hello. Sully here. Thank you. I'm sorry, it's still speaking at me. I am in full support of the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Board. And for those who are confused and still not understanding it, and those of our city council members that do not support it, in 1955, a lot of people probably through education didn't learn that the Cannon Street All-Star team, all African-American baseball team from the YMCA on Cannon Street, was denied access to the whites-only Little League tournament. Upon them trying to register, all teams forfeited, which let this team win. And through that, they started their own Dixie Youth Baseball team. And I'm sure many of you understand what that means. So let's not repeat the past and take our human affairs and conciliation into the future and progress and include everyone. Thank you for your time.
Hayward Hamilton. Hayward Hamilton.
Yes. I oppose the creation of this commission. The greater good is not being accomplished tonight by racially dividing our city through the creation of a permanent commission of equity. The lie is that changing the name of the commission changes the mission. It does not. In August, the council rejected this because of the basis points. The report is still based on the following: reparations, page 26, critical race theory, page 52, reallocating funds from the police, page 49, eliminating bail, page 23, the false 1619 project, page 53, removal of historic monuments, page 36. This commission will only divide our fair city. What is the harm in taking the recommendations one by one to create a fair and balanced commission? Please stop the mayor and his brother from promoting this destructive program. Please vote no on this divisive commission. Thank you.
Joel Sadler.
Hi. This is Joel Sadler, downtown resident and business owner. I am, not surprisingly, am speaking in support of the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. I just want to express my appreciation and respect to council members Gregory, Saccharin, Mitchell, Waring, Bowden, Shahid, and Brady for standing in support of the commission and publicly affirming that it will move the city forward. From listening to and reading hundreds of public comments myself, I recognize it has not been easy for any of you. I ask that council members Seeking, Shealy, Appel, and Parker join the majority and send a clear message that our elected officials unanimously support economic empowerment for all Charlestonians, not just its white citizens. Thank you.
Charles Stevens.
Hi, this is Charles Stevens. I'm James Island, and I asked the City Council to delay voting on this commission until the Daniel Island seat is seated and they are able to participate in the discussion and represent those folks. Thank you very much.
Allison Sutton.
Hi, this is Allison. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. I'm calling tonight to voice support for the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. I'm proud of the council members who have stuck with this work from the beginning, as well as those of you who have recently taken the time to educate yourselves and vote in its favor. I wish those of you who have voted against the commission would recognize how you perpetuate white supremacy in our city and realize that you are blocking the path towards equitable progress for all Charlestonians. I urge you all to consider the future our citizens deserve and vote to approve the commission. Thank you.
Ben Cash.
Hi, Ben Cash, downtown resident and a local business owner. I'm calling in support of the Commission for Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation. It's important that all voices are heard, and I appreciate the council and especially the mayor ensuring an opportunity for everyone to speak. This is not about blame and shame, scary sounding acronyms, or a national political agenda. It's simply about establishing a local commission to lead our holy city into a brighter, more inclusive and equitable future. If you read the report, you'll see it includes things like improving access to healthcare for low-income residents, seeing how environmental design can be used to support resident safety and crime prevention, investing in more opportunities to address flooding in low-income areas, and establishing a livable wage for all city staff that is on par with what it actually costs to live here. If you're against those things, then what are you for? Thank you.
Michael O'Neill. Michael O'Neill. Kava Compton. Caroline Frady.
Hi, my name is Caroline Brady. I live at 23 Ashton Street. I could have done that. On the west side. I'm a student at the College of Charleston, and I'm also a network member at the Charleston Area Justice Ministry. I'm in full support of the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. I vehemently urge City Council to vote in favor of the official establishment of the commission, as it is long overdue. I find it quite unfortunate how much time we spent debating something that truly will do the bare minimum and even beginning to address racial reconciliation in our city. This commission really has the potential to change and benefit real people's lives in our city. So I encourage you to make the right decision tonight. Thank you.
Sarah Thompson.
Sarah Thompson, College of Charleston, Maple Street. I am in full support and once again demanding the City Council be on the right side of history for once and vote unanimously in favor of the HARCC. The racist white pushback on this commission further shows the level of incompetence and fraying grasp on an accurate U.S. history due to the whitewashed education system. Reparations were not radical when it came to Jewish people or Asian Americans. Human rights are not a political issue. I read the statement that said the same people that threw rocks at Ruby Bridges don't want their kids or grandkids to know that they threw rocks at Ruby Bridges. The same can be said for Charlestonians that don't want the true history of the South and or the Confederacy to be taught. Here's a spoiler alert. The racist Confederate statues do and will come down, just like Mr. Slave-owning John C. Calhoun did. And the successful fight and demand for racial equity through radical yet peaceful action with just a dash of by any means necessary will not stop, no matter what side of history this council decides to be on tonight. The truth always reveals itself. We will not let up. Do not get Harry Griffin. It's not that hard.
Dia Betty. Dia Betty. Dr. Khan. Dr. Matthew Kressler.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Kressler. I'm a resident of West Ashley, a member of the Unitarian Church in Charleston, a professor at the College of Charleston, and since you can't see me, I think I should note that I'm white. I call on you to vote yes to establish the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Committee. It's been more than 50 years since the Charleston hospital strike, more than 150 years since emancipation, and still our city is defined by racial disparities in policing, housing, and education. It's time for us to do right by our community, to do right by our Black sisters and brothers. Please take this important step toward a more just and equitable Charleston. Do right and vote yes on the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Committee. And thank you so much to those city council members who've already been supporting it and working through this hard time. Thank you.
Hillary Hutchinson. Hillary Hutchinson.
Hello, my name is Hillary Hutchinson, and I also attend the Unitarian Church in Charleston. I am wholly in favor of establishing the Racial Conciliation Commission this evening. It's one small step on the road to healing the racial divides of our history and moving us to a brighter future for everyone. As I said, at the Unitarian Church, we have a memorial to the enslaved people that helped build our church. It incorporates bricks made by the enslaved with the Sankofa symbol attached. For those of you who are unfamiliar with that symbol, it translates to retrieve and is often rendered as a stylized bird with its head looking backward over its shoulder while it flies forward. This is a symbol that should guide Charleston going forward as well. We cannot heal the past without recognizing and reconciling ourselves to that memory. With a shared understanding, we can build a warm and welcoming community. With this commission, we can take a step toward healing the nation, one community at a time. It will allow Charleston to model.
Mimi Wood. Mimi Wood. Mary Ann Robeson.
Mary Ann Robinson, Mount Pleasant. Cities and nations following critical race theory have experienced totalitarianism and destruction. This may come to Charleston if the third reading regarding establishment of the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission is approved. Please vote against T's philosophy. Please seek dependence on God, not government, as the source of blessing on Charleston. Acts 10:34b to 35. God is no respecter of persons, but in every nation he that feareth him and worketh righteousness is accepted with him. Thank you.
And Mayor, did you want me to call out the names of people who we called earlier who didn't speak?
Sure.
Mike Trama.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, sorry I missed you. Sorry I missed you earlier. Guys, it's Marcus's birthday, so I'm going to do this really quick. Carolyn, where I come from, silence is acceptance. So when I pointed out the hypocrisy of you saying repeatedly that you listen to your constituents, but then saying you don't want to hear from your constituents via the human rights Human Affairs Council, you know, that's hypocrisy in action, and you didn't, you know, deny that. So with that said, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Marcus. Happy birthday to you, Marcus. I love you, man. Congratulations, golden birthday, 25 on the 25th. Keep fighting for Charleston, man. You're the best. Yield my time.
Mara Brockbank. Katie King.
Hello?
Yes. We can hear you. Joyce Myers. Dia Betty.
Hi.
Dr. Khan. All right, those were all the speakers that we had. And
Okay.
so we did receive some comments online, and our staff, we did our best. We did receive over 300 comments, so we tried to organize it by people who provided city addresses and people who provided addresses outside of the city or who did not provide addresses at all. 61 city residents asked City Council to support and improve the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. 37 non-city residents or commenters who did not provide addresses asked City Council to approve and support the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. 88 city residents asked that City Council vote against the creation of the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. 120 non-city residents or commenters who did not provide addresses asked that City Council vote against the creation of the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. One person in District 12 said they supported the commission and asked that Councilmember Parker send someone to speak to the constituents to clear up confusion, since she mentioned that constituents in her district were confused. We received an electronic petition signed by 1,458 people to oppose creation of the Racial Conciliation Commission, but it did not include addresses. One person said everyone attending in-person meetings should be wearing a mask at all times, council members included. One person said council members Shade and Brady should change their votes for the commission back to no, or door hangers would be posted throughout their districts. One person who did not provide an address said council should form a pro-family council to decrease promiscuity and abortion. One person quoted the entire Declaration of Independence. One person questioned the mayor's salary and said now is the best time for opportunity in Charleston. And those were all the comments we received.
Thank you so much. And we got that in the minutes. Is that a record for the number of comments we received? I think so. So thank you everyone for your participation and comments. I'm sorry that the rules of the chamber do not allow us to have a birthday cake here in your honor, but again, happy birthday. So, and thanks to all online who participated and well and shared your comments with us. Next up is our petitions and communications. We have a motion to approve
A and B.
Resiliency and Sustainability Advisory Committee. Any comments, questions, all in favor?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just
Shea.
want to make sure that when I'm playing out municipal, my errant balls will get a more favorable lie if I'm on this commission.
I'm sorry?
I want to make sure that my errant golf balls get a more favorable lie if I serve on this commission.
All right. We're on, was the motion to approve both A and B? Oh, together. I'm sorry. I didn't hear that. Okay. Yes, I think that is the case. Any questions, comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next up, Tracy McKee. I didn't speak with her today. Are you online? Do you have a report to make to us, or here she comes in person. Tracy McKee.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. No slides tonight. Due to a record number of COVID tests, DHEC has not released data since last Wednesday. Sorry, I ran up a little out of breath. Cases are trending down, but the daily cases are still very, very high, about 4 times higher than they were in our surge at the end of August, early September. And these don't even include the home tests. Percent of positives is still very, very high. We're averaging about 34% in the region. So remember the days when less than 5% was our goal. Employee cases, we've got about 31 active cases right now in employees. So we're seeing that decrease in our own employee population as well. We have 25 that are waiting for test results. 35% of all employee cases have occurred over the last 4 weeks. Yeah, wow, it's right. And so our wellness and HR folks have had some very successful booster events. So we've had a little over 70 employees actually boosted at those events. And we've had 400 employees actually submit their incentive forms for receiving their boosters. So I'm happy to try to answer any questions y'all have. I'm sorry I don't have any updated data. Hopefully DHEC will provide some updates tomorrow.
I do have a question, Tracy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Caroline, Councilmember Parker.
Tracy.
Councilmember Parker.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Were you requesting to be heard?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Please proceed.
Sure. This is really a question for legal, but it is pertaining to all of this. You know, I'd really like to hear from legal on this. We are not under a state of emergency in South Carolina for COVID. And I would really like our legal department to issue an opinion on the legality of the mayor's vaccine passport and the mask mandate.
Okay. Would legal like to address that, please? Please come to the microphone.
Mayor, I think the opinion in council is that council is empowered to issue rules of order and rules of governing the meetings that occur, and the enforcement of the mask wearing is a part of those rules of order, and council has the authority to do that, and the mayor has the authority to enforce that provision.
Thank you, sir.
And what about the vaccine passport? Our governor has stated that that's illegal.
I'm not aware of any issue involving council enforcement of a vaccine passport provision, at least insofar as legal is aware.
Well, I would like to, you know, ask legal to make that publicly available. I mean, people are wondering why they're not being allowed into the building.
We have a policy for city council meetings as of right now, temporarily during the high incidence of transmission of COVID with the Omicron variant.
Yeah.
That members in this chamber during this meeting wear a mask and show proof of vaccination.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is the legal opinion? What is the
legal opinion is that policy is enforceable.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions for Tracy or anybody else?
Shealy had a question.
I know that with this Omicron variant, things have been less severe. Is that the same with our staff? And are they able to return back to work quicker than we're seeing previously?
Yeah, I don't know about all of our cases, but anecdotally, from what I hear from our wellness team, that's been the case, that we have not had any severe cases. Yep.
All right, that's all we've got to report tonight. Unless there are any questions, we'll move on forward to our council committee reports. First up is our Committee on Community Development. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes, Mayor and council members. Committee on Community Development was held on Thursday, January 20th at 3 p.m. and we had two different items. Under AI was consider a resolution certifying the property located at 94 Shepherd Street, and that was approved by the committee. And under IB, the old business accessory dwelling unit ordinance, which is considered the ADU, we deferred that till further information is coming back. We had a lot of the committee members were given some various suggestions on it, and then the legal and the community development office going to look at and try to include that into the ordinance and bring it back to us. So we'll have another meeting pertaining to that. So I'm asking for approval on 1AI.
Aye. We got a second. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, sir. Next up, our Committee on Traffic and Transportation, Councilmember Brady.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Committee on Traffic and Transportation met yesterday at 2 p.m. to receive comments on the status of the portion of Frampton Street between Inverness Drive and Harbor View Road, and on the portion of Fairway Drive lying between Burning Tree Road and Harbor View Road. We allowed the petitioner who had requested that we have the hearing 10 minutes to present his case for why those, or to receive those comments. And the city had 10 minutes to present the findings that they had. We also heard for the general public, and council members got to ask questions, but at the end of the public hearing, no action was taken, but the mayor did offer for there to be some remediation in terms of looking at speed bumps to slow some of the traffic concerns and signage to help further that. But again, no action was taken.
Well, thank you. And I would like to report to council that I've already been in touch with both the police department and the Department of Transportation for increased enforcement on that street, and maybe put out one of those kind of automatic radar readers in addition to Mr. Somerville working with the neighborhood to see if they could place another speed bump on that block. All right. Thank you kindly. Anything else to report? You good. Next up, Committee on Public Works, Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All items, as you see on your agenda, was discussed, and all actionable items were passed unanimously, and I so move the adoption of the report.
Right. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. If I may just comment that both the Johns Island Resiliency Plan was very interesting, number one, and a lot of staff work went into that. And I think it's probably going to be available somewhere on our website or somewhere. It's something Johns Island folks, maybe we'll talk about it again a little bit at next meeting on Johns Island. And then a fascinating, great update on the medical district, Earhart Street extension of the tunnel system. We should be bringing that to council next meeting or the meeting after for approval of a construction contract. That's great. Next up, our Committee on Ways and Means, Councilmember Gregory. Any discussion, questions? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next up is bills up for third reading.
Mr. Mayor, I move to defer.
Motion to defer. Do we have a second? All right. Any discussion? Yes, Councilmember Gregory.
I can't hear anything.
Here, now, Councilmember Parker.
Is he talking?
Is this better?
Oh, yeah. Yep, finally.
I think that a deferral at this point would just be delaying the work that really needs to get started here. I think that we should, I know we have to vote on the deferral. I really think that we should move forward with approving the ordinance as outlined in our packet. And once approved, we can consider amendments forever. I think that we're at a pivotal point as a city, and that we listen to what I consider the next generation speak. I heard about the 1,500 signatures, but I represent 12, 13,000 residents of the city of Charleston, some on James Island and some downtown. And I'm not getting from my 12,000 any pushback on approving the ordinance as outlined in our packet. I just think that it would be a mistake for us to even consider deferring, especially based on untruths. We all know that CRT is not a part of our park. We know that defunding police is not a part of the ordinance before you. We know that the term reparations is not a part of what is being submitted. And a lot of people are afraid of that word, but I think most of the attorneys on council clearly understands restitution and reparations because it's the essence of what they do. In a criminal case, they ask for restitution, they ask for reparation where there's damage. So I don't think that that should be a term that we should be afraid of. Secondly, reparation doesn't necessarily mean money, a dollar allocation at all. I think that the civil rights legislation of the 60s was probably the largest reparation bill ever passed by this council. The fair housing legislation was one of the largest reparation bills ever passed in this country. And why? Because there was discrimination occurring in our country that's been blatant. This is reminding me of moving backwards. I thought that we were a council that would be moving forward. I would be embarrassed right now after my picture, among with my colleagues, were in Sunday's paper saying that we were in support of what is before us now. I think we do a disservice to our constituents when we backtrack, flip, flop, because they really have no idea where we really stand. I think the fact that we were in the paper jointly jointly authored the editorial, which clearly stated that we supported what was in this document. I don't understand what occurred between Sunday and today that would change the minds of those who supported something on Sunday, but now wants to defer. I have no problem at all with amending, just as we did with the bid, and we voted it forward, clearly understanding that it wasn't complete, that over time, we would be putting the flesh on it. This is no different. Let's not, as a council, put in systemic policies within this document, because that's what we're doing. Okay? We're talking about eradicating systemic discrimination in our country as we attempt tonight, through amendments eventually, to place restrictions on a document, on a proposed commission before it even gets started. It doesn't sound right to me that we as a council are about to place amendments in a document that fosters systemic, institutionalized policies against specific groups. And I think that's what we are about to do. I think the right thing to do is for the 7 or 8 of us who supported it, put forth an editorial saying we supported it, to move forward and be prepared to deal with any amendments that come thereafter. Some of, I got 10 minutes, I still have 15 minutes, right? Okay. Some of the amendments that I read was frightening. It was frightening that in the 21st century, that we have amendments that would restrict participation on a commission simply because we participated in a temporary special commission, which completed its work. It completed its work. So to me, deferring this is just delaying what not just African Americans, but people of this city has been waiting for a long time. And I think we also need to understand that when we talk about race, talking Black, when we say racial conciliation, we're talking about the protection of every single person in this room. It just so happened, given our history as a country and as a city, the group that has been mostly vilified throughout history is the group that the commission wants to focus on at this point. Race protects everyone, whites, Blacks, Jews, Asians, everyone. So when we start taking the term race and immediately associating with African Americans, I think we're making a big mistake. I listened very closely to my colleague, Peter Shade, who talked about the walnut test. Okay? That's why we have color as a protected class. Color is a protected class because of that. In the South, for African Americans, it was a paper bag test. Very similar. So color is a protected class. If I'm an African American and I'm looking at advertisements, and all those advertisements are white people, what message does that send to me as an African American? The message is that I'm not wanted at all. I've worked in civil rights for a very, very long time. And some of what I've read that's now a part of the public record, if the city was to even think about passing some of it, I'd be the first to try a class action suit against this city. If we ever put those kinds of negative, discriminatory, systemic policy provisions in anything that the city does. I've been around long enough to know that there's a reason why the Joseph Floyds exist. There's a reason why the manor exists. If I was to advise the people at Joseph Floyd Manor, I would advise them to bring a class action suit against the county and the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for discriminating, for allowing them to live the way they live. And I have worked on those cases, some as much as a $26 million settlement because of discrimination in housing. So I say all that to say, folks, let's put our big shoes on and let's take the heat, because we will get some heat, and move this bill forward and stop playing games. Because no matter what we put forward at this point, there will be amendments. That's the way it works. So just as we did for the bid, I think we should be doing the same thing here. Get this thing passed. And as time moves forward, we continue to make it better. Let's not delay this. I think deferring this would be a big mistake. I'd hoped that the new generation on this council would be moving things forward. I'd hope that people on this council who understands discrimination, who understands the killing and the murdering and the genocide of a people would not have any hesitation to vote yes on human affairs, which is all encompassing, folks. It really is. The name does make a difference because it's casting a much wider net. And we thought in our negotiations, Councilman Saccharin, as we gave up so much to get to where we are, so much, okay, that this would be it. But I think if we delay tonight, we'll be delaying on this infinite. My 15 minutes is up, I'm sure, because I hear these two in the corner talking, and and Councilman Seeking, I'm a little disappointed. And I'm gonna tell you why. It was your vote. It was your one vote that got the apology through. Your vote made the difference. And now, okay, as we move forward, and the apology was very clear that this is where we were headed, and you voted for it. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, you're not for it. Councilman, and I'm gonna shut up. Councilman.
Did we amend
Yeah.
the time to 10 minutes?
No, it's 15. Councilman Appel, okay. You voted to send the report to council for consideration as a member of the commission. So yes, I'm shocked at what happened. I really am. So I think that we really need to put the greater good hats on and move forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Shade and then Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want this to be heard very loud and very clearly. My support for the passage of this ordinance has not wavered. I want this ordinance to be passed successfully. When we voted and debated this 2 weeks ago, all of us in this chamber spoke very eloquently from different perspectives on our positions with this. What was really interesting is not one word of what we said in this chamber was ever published. It got completely ignored in the public. And if people would have read or watched or heard or paid attention to what was said, they would have understood our vote. And it was very compelling. All of us spoke from our hearts and our minds and our personal experiences. When Councilmember Brady made the motion that we just take a second vote and delay the third vote, it was sort of my feeling, certainly from my perspective, an opportunity to give our citizens an opportunity to talk, to share, and to express themselves with us, and for us to hear it. And I did that. I took the time out to have a citizens participation meeting on Zoom. Several of you who are in this room participated in that. Y'all listened in. Some of y'all talked. And I had the opportunity for the very first time to hear a rational response as to what people's objections were to that report. And Councilmember Gregory, you were absolutely correct on several points, one of which I want to highlight. That is, no matter what we do, either if it's tonight or 2 weeks from tonight, there is a small minority segment in this community who are hell-bent on seeing this commission fail. There's no question about it. And those are the comments that we have received because there are folks out there deliberately trying to divide us. And there are folks in groups of people who are out there deliberately passing out misinformation among us. And we heard it tonight. I mean, we have stood on our heads saying 1,000 times that this commission is not bound by the prior special commission. It's not here to promote defunding the police. It's not here to promote critical race theory. It's not here to promote slave reparations. No matter how long we say that, how loud we say that, people don't want to hear that. And it is discouraging. It's disappointing. It's rather sickening, quite frankly. But there are people who want to divide us and hurt this community. And it saddens me. But I have to give credit to at least the folks who reached out to me. And we sat down and we had a very candid conversation. And I heard from them, which was consistent with some of the people I heard last Thursday as to some of their concerns. So I asked them to put it in writing what those amendments were. And some of them I agree with, some of them I don't agree with. And I talked with our legal counsel and found out that we can't take up those amendments tonight unless we have a unanimous vote from council, which I know is not going to happen, to do that. So here's our options. We can vote on this ordinance as it's written right now with the draft that's on our table, knowing that there are a few things that we need to address. One of them is how the commission is formed, the vote on how that's done. And I think people I've talked to seem to agree that that needs to be addressed. There may be some other things that some of us will agree with, some of the things that we may not agree with some of those proposed amendments. But at least let's do this in an orderly fashion so that we get this thing done and get it passed and move forward with it. That's the only way I see of doing it. It's not for delay. It's not to buckle under this massive misinformation campaign that's been going on. It is simply what I see as my obligation as a member of this council to listen to differing viewpoints and differing points for my constituents and others as to how to make this commission stronger and better. And so that is my only motivation, is to allow those people to express themselves to me. Those who wish to see the success of this commission, I think we have an opportunity to do that. And I think that this is the way forward to doing that. And I would ask that y'all vote in favor of deferral. We come back, we sit down very quickly, and we have an amended version. It's on our desk well in advance. It fulfills the obligations of our ordinance as to how this is to be passed, and then we move forward. Thank you.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Mr. Mayor and colleague on council, when I first came in, I said my heart was heavy. And that's why I called my minister to come and make the invocation. I have sat in this council chambers a long time, ever since 1998, with various colleagues. Got off the council, community called me to come back, came back on council. I am just very applauded with my colleagues around when we are talking about this commission, that we voted and sent these people out to do this, what they have done. And we know that whatever they brought back is not what council is going to vote on or approve everything that they brought back. It was almost like, to me, a guide that we're going to use to channel through to make the city of Charleston the best place for everyone, for my young people, your young people, white, black, blue, green, doesn't matter. I have been out here a while in these streets and the civil rights movement and everything, and seen what happened through the years, much more than anyone sitting around in this chamber. From all my colleagues, I have seen what takes place. What are we afraid of? Making decisions right here, what we was elected to do. People are going to beat you up. I got beat up all these years before some of the council members my colleagues here, who are here now. But I can make my decision. And I can stand by my decision. You might not agree with it. Some of the people in the community didn't agree with a lot of decisions I made. But I would tell them my decision why I vote the way I voted. I'm not afraid to vote. I'm not afraid to lose the seat sitting in these chambers, because these seats doesn't belong to neither one of us, not us here, on these seats here. We are just elected officials. And if you can't go out yourself and explain to your constituents why you're voting and what was taking place, then the problem is on you, not me or anyone else. I got a very, and anyone tell you, a very diverse community. And none of in my community have called me back pertaining to this at all. As of today, at all. Just went through an election. And if you look at my election, the numbers, majority of the people who voted for me was not the people who look like me in my district, the district I represent, District 4. So I'm not afraid to lose a seat. I'm just here as an elected official to represent a district that they voted for me. So if you all sitting here afraid to lose your seat, you need to get up and go home. That's the way I take it. And I was saying this way back when, since 2006. If you're afraid to lose a seat because you think people are not going to vote for you because you're voting for an issue that's on council that you took an oath up there to do, then you need to get up and go home. And that's the way I look at it. That's why my heart was so heavy coming in here to see my colleagues saying, oh, we need to change this. Oh, we need to amend this. All this bunch of amendments. How long did we have this out here? We give it first reading. We give it second reading. Normally we do second and third reading. We give it second reading and held it off another 2 weeks so people know what's happening with this commission. Did that make a difference? No, the same people came back to this council saying the same thing. And they bringing this 1,400 people here that lives in Mount Pleasant, Goose Creek, Charlotte, North. That don't bother me because I'm not representing them. I'm representing the people in the city of Charleston. Why are you going to come here and tell me what to do in the city of Charleston? You need to do what's best for your city that you live in. And I was very applauded by that, but I read every last one of them. Mount Pleasant, city of North Charleston, Somerville, this place, that. Come on, people. None of you all here have walked the roads that a lot of people have walked and went through what they had to go through. That's not only African American. That was also whites too. I saw when they was out there with me, I saw the abuse that they took because they know it was unjust that was happening to people. Up and down King Street. Unjust. They saw the injustice that was happening. Sit down in a restaurant. Arrested. Even the whites sit down in the restaurant with us. They arrested them afterwards because they knew he was along with us. So y'all want to see half of what's happening. Half of what's going on. Y'all just heard about it. You heard about it. I was there. So that's why my heart was heavy when I start hearing my colleagues talking, oh, we're not going to do this because we not to do this amendment, this. We got to take this out and amend this. And oh, if we do this, and then the people will be satisfied if we make amendment. Oh, come on, people. You make a decision and you stand by the decision you make. That's what it's all about. That's why we're sitting in these seats, to make these tough decisions. That's for everyone. Not just because a group come and telling you, oh, I don't think we need to have this in there. You need to take this out. Then you come back to council and they say, oh, we need to take this out because they're not satisfied with these words or that phrase. Okay. How many other phrases that other people had to take for years and years? So that's my problem. I grew up in the city of Charleston. I'm 73 years old. Walk these streets up and down, been out in these streets. And when I come to my colleagues here, I look at them around, we look at the diversity. Even when you saw the article in Sunday's paper, that was something that looked great because why it was diverse. It wasn't all of one. So I said, oh, there's a change coming. And I come right back in this council and see the same thing happening what happened years ago. There's no change. I'm looking for the change. In my lifetime, I'm probably not going to see it. But I was looking for it, that we come together and just, come on, let's move it forward, move things forward, and stop being stagnated and go backwards. And that's all we are doing, moving backwards. And that's what I see every day. And that's why I said to this council when I came in here, and it really bothered me when I walked in this door. When I start hearing things, it bothered me. That's why I said, I'll vote for it. I'm going to vote for it. People can do what they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. I don't care what kind of stuff you put in this proposal, people are not going to change their mind. Doesn't matter what you say, what kind of changes you make, you're still going to have a whole group that's still going to say the same thing. It's not going. So you need to just go ahead and prove it. We go with it. They'll come back later. It'll be all done. We have done it before, many times, because they couldn't see. They had the blinders on. It's now time to take those blinders off, and we as council members here took that oath up there when the mayor gave it to us. And some people say, oh, well, I got to run again this year. People are not going to vote for me if I do this. Who cares? We all sit down here and say, oh, we serve a God that's sit high and look low. I don't know sometimes with God, sometimes people are serving. Because he looks out for everyone. Everyone. He's a God for everyone. But he's looking for you to do what is right. What is right. Not because this wants you to do it or someone else wants you to do it. I don't vote that way. Y'all see me sit down here, I sit down and you see me hold my hand sometime and hold my head down. You know why I'm doing? I'm praying sometimes because I don't know the decision to make. When I hold my head up, I can make my decision and hold fast to it. And anyone come to me, I can say, well, I voted this way. This is why I voted. You might not agree with, but in the long run, they'll say, oh, you know, I can see what you were saying. I don't play the games. Time is short. Now I might be in these seats pretty soon. But we got young people coming behind us and they said, these people before us, they did nothing. Leaving us with all the problems again. Mr. Mayor, I'm finished.
All right, the motion on the floor is to defer. Councilmember Saccharin.
Thank you, Mayor. Hopefully my mic works this week. I will not be taking the total 15 minutes, but I just want to say for the record, this is probably the most difficult vote for me. I think many know where I stand on the issue of the commission, where my heart lies. But I'm having a difficult time tonight because I do want to acknowledge Councilman Gregory and Councilman Mitchell's comments this evening. But I think Councilman Shade made some points that I think need to be considered. And I'm not sure I'm going to vote for a deferral. I just want to be clear. Councilman Shade had a Zoom meeting with some constituents earlier in the week, and it was a wonderful conversation to hear from folks that understood that there's disparities, but wanted to help us solve those disparities. That's a different conversation from some of the crazy emails I get that lack any narrative, any context, and flat out think that we're living in, fairyland and we're all getting along great. Two different conversations. So the conversations I heard from folks, and I had a great conversation from someone today that vehemently opposed the commission. And he was respectful and he was rational. But at the end of the day, he also acknowledged that there are disparities in our community. He mentors on the side, works at Sanders Clyde as a volunteer, and understands that we have systemic challenges here in Charleston. So when I think about tonight's vote, I think about him. I think about our Black community, and I think about our minorities, and I think about our folks that have been disenfranchised. I think we've got a polarizing issue here. And there's folks that we're never going to get to agree to where we are. But it's like the gentleman I spoke with today, and I'm just speaking off the cuff because I'm speaking from the heart, because this is a difficult decision. When I talk to the gentleman today that understands that we have those challenges, that wants to be part of the solution, I feel it's my obligation as a council member that represents 12,000 people, but also a council member that respects and understands that we have other council members that have constituents that may or may not agree with this. So I also took an oath. I took an oath to represent my constituents, but I also took an oath to make sure the decisions we make are the best for all of Charleston. And I'm not sure, again, if I'm going to defer or not, or vote for a deferral. I really don't know. But I do know that I would rather reach out to those in the community that are willing to roll up their sleeves, acknowledge that the commission needs to be formed, and let's work together to figure this out. What I don't want is to rush through a vote this evening and start off on the wrong foot. What I don't want to do tonight is rush this through and make sure that everyone's voices have not been heard. And I will fully agree. This has been going on for 2 years. So for those that suggest that they haven't been part of the process or they're not aware, we've had multiple meetings. What other commission has gone through 3 readings? Here we are at the 11th hour talking about a deferral. So I know I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth. And I want to acknowledge that because I am very torn right now. I think that's the extent of my comments. And if we do defer this, I'm going to be very clear. If this does pass tonight, and we do defer this, any amendments that restrict in any way members that were on the special commission to be on this new commission, that's a line in the sand that I will never support. Quite frankly, that's why we have this commission. Number 2, any amendments that prohibit the commission from collaborating with the Charleston County School District. I don't believe I'm having to have this conversation in a chamber here in the city of Charleston to address that. As a parent of a child that actually has 2 children in public schools, I find it offensive. Because it also means that you don't recognize that we do have disparities in our communities, particularly education. The last thing I would say just before my time is up is I respect those opposing viewpoints. Those that come to the table that want to be part of the solution, I respect them. And I'll yield the rest of my time to anyone else. I'm done. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Rappel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And want to offer some remarks on the matter at hand. I'm reminded of the final meeting of the special commission when we took that final vote to send the report out of the commission. And I sat through the whole meeting without making any comments. I think the meeting went for almost 2 hours. And at the close of the meeting, I raised my hand. We were on Zoom. And I said, guys, I think this work's been wonderful. I think there's a lot of great ideas that have been put forward. And I look forward to taking up these ideas through the committee process and making some of these things real, making them ordinances, doing our job as legislators for the city of Charleston. But I said, I'm concerned about certain words and phrases in the report, and we all know what they are. And I don't want to repeat them and go back over them again. But so I just want to say that because I want to feel, and I know in my heart that I have tried, as long as I've been involved in this discussion, to move this forward, whether it be the report, whether it be the commission, in a way that is as unified and primed for success as possible. We owe it to this commission. It's going to happen. I mean, as Councilman Shea had said, whether it's voted on tonight or it's voted on at the next meeting, the commission is going to happen. To me, it all comes down to how can we put the commission in the best position to succeed, to work. You know, coaches in sports are required to do this all the time. It's about finding the way to set up folks to do their best and to work. And I think part of my problem, and I expressed this at our last meeting, and I'm not going to go over it all again, is it doesn't strike me as abundantly clear what the commission is supposed to be doing. one of my objections to the commission originally was that it has us straying into areas that really are outside of the city's purview, right? The city of Charleston is just one cog in a very complicated machine of government that we have in this country. And we all know what our limitations are. Just try to get a crosswalk painted on King Street, how many different departments we have to talk to around here. Government's complicated. If I thought for 1 second we could pass a commission, and just sweep away all these issues from the past, it would be a very simple vote. But we owe it to the commission to set them up for success. I thought the editorial that I read in the paper this weekend was extremely well done. Frankly, it's the kind of stuff that we should have been doing perhaps a little bit earlier in the process. And what I mean by that is, and I mentioned at the last meeting, we've done a wonderful job talking amongst ourselves. I'm not quite sure we've done a very good job of communicating to the public what the commission is supposed to be doing and what they're not supposed to be doing. So I loved hearing at our last council meeting and doubled down on in the report, in the editorial, that we weren't going to be talking about defunding the police, that we weren't going to be talking about CRT to the extent it gets into school curriculum. The school boards, that's their job. And also the issue of reparations. Those aren't my words. Those are the words in the op-ed. Those are the words that I heard from around this, room at the last meeting. So the day after our last council meeting, I pulled up my Outlook, I got on my city email account, and I emailed Mayor, I emailed Councilman Gregory, I emailed Councilman Saccharin, and I said, guys, why don't we just add a simple amendment to this ordinance? And let's just say what y'all have already said and what we've put into the op-ed, that we're not going to be doing the things we all have said we're not going to be doing, that just so happen to be the things we have no control over as a practical matter. And they also happen to be the three things that has gotten the community the most up in arms about. Now, why am I saying this? Am I saying this just to, over lawyer an ordinance? No, it's because I want to vote for this thing. I want this community to be much more supportive and unified behind this effort. I know the goal is not ever going to be 100% buy-in. Councilman Shade is 1000% right that there are people out there that are trying intentionally to deceive and to distort and to destroy this thing. But guys, I got to tell y'all something. We've made that job too easy for them. We've made that job too easy for them by using very charged words in our modern lexicon. Right or wrong, it's a fact of life. These words are radioactive and toxic. We've used them in a very confusing way. All right, let's just pull back the buzzwords. Let's pull back the national rhetoric, and let's focus on something that is unique to Charleston, that focuses on the things that we can control. Now, I went to Bishop England. I'm not a Catholic. I happen to be Jewish. I don't know if anybody knows that. And I'm going to be horrible in paraphrasing this Catholic prayer. Councilman Shade, please pick me up if I fall to the pieces here. But there's a prayer that the Catholics say. It's something about give me the grace to, do what I can control, but know that what I can't control. Something along those lines.
Serenity prayer. Know the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and for God to show me the difference, right? Like, we have to act with a little bit of humility as city council members. We can't change the world here. No commission sitting on Zoom is going to do that, right? We owe it to our commission that's going to happen in this city. I want to vote for it. We owe it to provide them a path to succeed. And I think we can do that. And I loved hearing from the gentleman that came up and spoke earlier. I forgot his name. I think he's part of the group that met with Councilman Shayed. He wants to support the commission, right? And it's not about whether we do a commission or not. It's how we structure it and how we put it on a path to succeed that avoids some of the most toxic phrases and concept, which we've all agreed are not going to be part of this. So, you know, it matters what's in these ordinances. Words matter, details matter. Maybe they matter a little bit more to me because all I do is look at laws and ordinances all day. But having clear parameters set for the commission will make it more likely, not less likely, that the commission's work will ultimately succeed. And it's our job, we're in charge as city council to put the parameters and the framework into place. So I disagree with some of the more extreme proposals that I've heard floated around in terms of amendments. My request was very simple early on. Let's just put in the ordinance, which y'all have all gone on the record multiple times stating we're going to do. And so that's what I think we should do. I'm in support of deferral. I'm ready to get started tomorrow, you know, working together to try to see if we can make a better ordinance. And that's that. So I appreciate the time. Thank y'all.
Councilmember Pell, if you'll allow, I think Councilmember Waring wants to ask you a question.
I do have a question. What you would like us to put, can you crystallize it in a sentence or two? Would you like to see the ordinance changed to include?
Oh, certainly, Councilman Waring. I mean, in my opinion, I think we should just have a line or two in the ordinance that just says that, you know, after the list of about 10 or 11 things the commission is supposed to do, we just say, here are the things that city council is not authorizing the commission to discuss. And that's critical race theory as it relates to, you know, school curriculum, reparations, and defunding the police. And, you know, I sense from some of the comments earlier that, you know, somehow we're like muzzling or we're restricting, you know, conversation. Well, to that I say, that's our job. Our job, we set the rules around here, not any commission that's not elected by anybody. I also represent 12,000 people, and they're not on board with some of these more extreme things. It's our job to set this commission up for success. If we don't put language in the ordinance that precludes the consideration of those things, there is nothing to stop the first meeting of this commission to be all about defunding the police, right? When we set up a bike and ped advisory commission, we don't want them talking about nuclear power plants in India. We tell them what they're supposed to work on. We set the rules. We're in charge. Speaking of which, I heard a wonderful speech from our mayor this earlier today. You know, some of the comments I've heard tonight and throughout this process, you would think the city of Charleston has never done anything to rectify its undeniable sins of the past. There's no city in this state that does more for affordable housing than the city of Charleston. There's no city in this state that runs a more modern, progressive police department. Are we perfect on any of those issues? No, but we're trying and we've done a lot. And I'm gonna respectfully, you know, challenge all of us around this table. It's our job as legislators and electeds to come up with ideas, move them through committee, make them law. We had a community and development committee meeting last week. There were 2 items on the agenda. An approval for an abandoned or a historic property tax credit so someone can make a buck on doing one real estate deal, and an affordable and an accessory dwelling unit ordinance where we're discussing restrictive covenants. We should be embarrassed around this table that the Community Development Committee agenda had 2 items on it after this report that we've talked about with all these different ideas. We're not doing our job around this table. We have all got to step our game up. Our job as city council members is not to wait until the agendas get pushed out to our inbox and we get to read what we're going to be talking about. We're the legislative body of this city. It's our job We can pick up any idea we want 6 months ago and run with it. I did it with the minimum parking requirements ordinance on King Street. Anybody around this table can do it for a matter that advances equity, for a matter that advances all the goals and all the things we do around the city. So I kind of went off on a little tangent there, Councilman Waring, but I just, to boil it all
I think
down.
you answered the question.
Yeah, to boil it all down, let's just put what y'all said in the editorial into the ordinance.
But then, Councilmember Bowden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, my colleagues, for your words this evening. I'll admit sort of where my biases on this issue come from. I am a public defender. Some of y'all know that. I spend an inordinate amount of time in jails. And I look through plexiglass to people who are locked up. And there's really no other way to describe incarceration but putting people in a cage like an animal. And I look at the people that I talk to and I notice what color they are. And so I don't understand, I didn't understand what the opposition to this commission was about. Because I see the urgency of the work that can be done to change lives, to change generations, to change our city's future. And I want to thank some of the council members who have been singled out for quote unquote changing their votes, when really what they have done is change their opinions based on fact. That's what we ask people to do. That's what we were all elected to do. The ordinance has changed. I followed before I came to council. It's different from what it was before. I'm not requiring anybody to refer to the commission's report, although we asked that commission to put together that report with a broad range of recommendations for us to consider. I want to thank Councilman Shade for inviting me to his neighborhood meeting, essentially, although it was on Zoom. And I agree. I heard some feedback that was born out of misunderstanding. When we reached the end of that meeting, I think it became clear to people that we are not creating some unelected board that is going to impose its will on our city. That is not what we are doing. To allow people to continue to say that without checking it is to give in to cynicism. We can't do that tonight. I'm not going to vote to defer this. We've been accused of dividing our community. We got to make a decision. I don't think that we can string this out forever. You know, when I go to seminars and trainings on trial practice, we hear all the time, show, don't tell. That's the stage we've reached. We have communicated. I was proud to join that op-ed in the paper. And we have reached the stage where it is time to show people that we are not lying to them. This is a commission that is meant to consider ideas. And when in the world did we get so scared of ideas? So I'm going to vote not to defer this tonight. If it reaches my desk, I will vote to advance this commission, to create this commission, and we can work to amend it afterwards. Once we have gone about the difficult work of proving to people that we have been honest all along. And that's what I think we ought to do tonight.
Anyone else like to be heard? We have a motion on the floor. I would just make a comment if I will. Yeah, Councilmember Sacklin.
It's not going to be long. I just want to make sure that folks that are listening, this is part of, the legislative process. And Councilman Shade made this point. Folks that we've heard from the past couple of weeks, we could not amend tonight's agenda ordinance to include any of that feedback because of a procedural, I don't want to call, I'm not the attorney. So we could not do that. So that's where my head is, why I'm hesitant on where I'm headed, because a deferral will allow us to basically add any additional changes and amendments. So I just want to make sure folks that are listening are aware that this is part of the procedural piece that we're grappling with. It's not just an easy up or down vote. Thank you.
Right. So Councilmember Brady.
Yeah, I just had a point of order for Councilmember Shayhead. Was your motion to defer, did it have a time limit to the next meeting? Okay. So just wanted to be clear that the motion on the floor was to defer, but have it be brought up at the following meeting.
That it has what?
To be brought up at the following meeting.
Oh, correct. That would be our normal, Councilmember Seeking.
And just briefly, I don't want to speak for my fellow council member to my left here, but I think his motion to defer was based on the fact he'd met with some people, thought there were some amendments out there that would bring us closer together, not divide us further apart. And really, for 2 weeks, vote for this motion to defer, see if those amendments go, see if we can bring those people in. I mean, if we don't do this, after last time we said we're going to hold off on third reading because we want to hear from opposite and opposing points of view. And apparently I wasn't there, but plenty of people were. The opposite and opposing points of view agreed on a few things that will make this better and give the direction that Councilmember Appel so rightly points out. Every commission we have has direction. And this one can use that to its benefit. And we at this council can use this time to our benefit to show people we're listening. I urge you to vote for this motion to defer, then vote for it, get this over with. It will be a unifying vote, notwithstanding some of the comments. I think you all think it's going to not be. I think it will be.
Well, I was also going to point out some of the technicalities of where we are, and I'm sorry that this thing has become as difficult to get past. I must say, in a way, Councilmember Saccharin, I don't feel it's as difficult because this commission is going to be created. We are going to create this commission, gentlemen, and Councilmember Parker. So we set ourselves up for this maybe in the way we handled it at our last meeting. And I thought it was very respectful of Councilmember Brady to have a second reading and put it off for third reading for more input to come in. The trick to that is the way our rules work, that if you're just bringing something up for third reading, it's got to be fully posted in our agenda package that goes out almost a week before the meeting for it to be debated and acted upon. And otherwise, rather than having talked all night tonight about deferring it, we would have just been debating the amendments themselves, because, from my point of view, if the deferral succeeds, we're going to have those amendments on the agenda next Wednesday so we can debate them at the next meeting and pass it. And if the deferral fails tonight, I'm going to vote to approve the commission, and then we'll bring forward the amendments next meeting anyway. So I'm convinced, excuse the expression, come hell or high water, we're going to pass this commission by 2 weeks from now, and with some amendments. So I believe that's the way it will play out. So it's not so difficult. I know I can be an impatient person sometimes myself, and I recognize Councilmember Bowden, the urgency of this. We have been at this a while. So one way or the other, we're going to get there. This commission is going to pass. Any other comments before we take a vote? Councilmember Parker, would you like to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Parker, I think you're on mute.
Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually think we could pass this tonight and still do the amendments in 2 weeks. We amend things all the time. Now, I've looked at the amendments that Councilman Shea brought forth. Actually, I saw it earlier today, and I think they're very sound and good, commonsensical additions. Councilmember Appel, I think your point is well taken, and that should be included as well. But I also think those things can be done in 2 weeks, even if we were to vote to put the commission in place. There's no rule to say that we can't give guidelines, and that's all we're talking about doing to a commission that has yet to be appointed. We just voting tonight to establish the commission. If I would ask everybody in here, who's going to be on the commission? We don't have one name. So certainly we can do the guidelines within the next 2 weeks. If this were to fail tonight, I would want to put a motion on the agenda at the next meeting for the passage of defunding the police, for approving critical race theory, and for reparations. Now, I'm gonna vote against that. But maybe that'll give some skin to people around the table, such that if we have a unanimous vote voting down defund the police, we don't have anything to do with critical race theory, or approving reparations as discussed in that report. That would fail by the next time we meet. The general person would be from Daniel Allen. That would pass 13, that would fail 13-0. I'm convinced of that. But by the same token, everybody around this table to empowered to vote on this issue already knows none of that is before us tonight. And you said it right, Councilman Shea. You can shout it loud to the rooftop, and some people just not going to believe it. And the good gentleman that you spoke of, Councilman Appel, I think he said he lived there. I don't have his name either, but I think he said he lived at 1 Meeting Street. I, for one, think he'd be a good person to put on the committee, because everybody shouldn't be in agreeing views. So I think this deferral is just frankly, political deferral. In that, all of your suggestions I agree with, but you're right, because of this third reading rule that we have, if we can't add these unanimous and we can't add Councilmember Appel's proposal unanimously, then we can't go forward with the third reading. So from a procedural standpoint, I'd like legal to come forward to say, if we vote to establish the committee tonight, and we put these amendments as proposed by Councilman Shea and will be by Councilmember Appel, can they be voted on as part of the agenda? As you said, Mr. Mayor, put it on the agenda next Wednesday to go out to the public, that would give guidelines to the committee the commission that we vote on to establish tonight. I think we could do one in the same. It's kind of like that ADU thing. We could have private sector and supplemental ADU. Can you come up to the microphone and help my colleagues out?
Straighten us out here.
Sure, Councilman Waring. You can vote tonight, third reading, and then at the next meeting, we can have an amendment proposal. But that would have to go through 3 readings for an amendment to the ordinance, of course, but still it's same
That's
track.
okay. I don't know anybody, a majority of this council that's going to vote against those amendments.
So a point of order to Ms. Copeland's issue. If we defer it, and then we come up with the amendments, the next, in two weeks, we'll have a vote, and that'll be it. If we vote not to defer it, and then vote on the ordinance as written, then we bring up the amendments, then we have to go through 3 readings which means a 2-week plus another delay of 2 weeks. So the most expedient way of doing this, as I understand from legal counsel, is to defer it till next week, put whatever amendments we want or don't want in there, and then there's an up and down, and then we're done. We're finished.
I understand, my colleague, but this has been anything but expedient. This has been anything but expedient. And even through that process of amendment, if there's some additional amendments to come forward, it gives additional time. Okay? So the public has put out there, they hadn't had input, but we all know it's been almost a year and a half now. All the public meetings, as Councilmember Zachary has said so eloquently, all of them have been public. All of them have been on YouTube. A lot of people didn't participate, but it was not a closed process. So even with this process, Councilmember Shahid, your good friend, who I'm looking at right now, and I'm not saying that to be sarcastic, these are some good suggestions. In 2 weeks, he may have one more that we can have time to include. But establishing the committee, we need to go ahead and do this. Coming up with these amendments, we can do that in 2 weeks and take care of that. Yes, sir, Mr.
1 week.
1 week,
To
okay.
get it on the agenda. Could I get one clarification that if these amendments come forward, would we be able to vote up and down on each amendment, or we got to take the whole package together? Because we may not get agreement on each amendment.
For the majority of rules. Majority of rules.
Could I just clarify that? I would like to know.
Sure, we would need a document with all the agreed amendments posted for the public prior to the meeting for that third reading. If there are any additional amendments on the floor, then we're stuck with the same issue where we need a unanimous consent to consider those additions.
Right, but each amendment can be voted up or down. Like, we could add 4 of the 5 amendments and still approve the commission, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir, you could do that.
Okay.
It's just adding things that's going to be the
They
issue.
would all be on the agenda package for next Wednesday.
Correct.
Say we come up with 5 amendments.
Mhm.
I'm just wanting to make sure that in case there's an amendment that everybody can't agree on, that we can still approve the commission without having to go back to square one.
We could do that.
Okay, just checking. Councilmember
Wait a
Seeking.
minute now. Wait a minute. I still got my time. Council, please come back to the.
Okay, Councilmember Shealy has not been heard yet. Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to get clarity on that. Thank you, Councilman.
Okay. Councilmember Waring.
Again, if we establish the committee tonight,
Yes, sir.
these amendments come forward. And the same time frame that the mayor said, both can be accomplished.
What's that?
Both can be accomplished. In other words, we can, you said we're going to establish the committee. I agree with you.
Yes, sir.
I think my colleagues, a majority of us agree with you.
Yes, sir.
If we establish the committee tonight, we have to come forward with guidelines. There aren't any guidelines. Well, I would think the desire is to come forward with guidelines. Okay. I don't see, again, I saw Councilmember Shade's amendments before I came to the meeting tonight. I don't disagree with any one of them. I don't disagree with anything that you said tonight. Now, other colleagues will have to vote on it, but I don't understand that if we vote on establishing that committee tonight, what harm have we created? Have we eliminated the ability to amend the guidelines? I'll yield to my counsel.
I think we're all saying pretty much the same thing. So it's just, and this may be the lawyer in me, so, but what I would consider to be the cleaner way of doing this is that we defer and comes back in our next meeting in 2 weeks with all or some or any additional of those amendments. We have it on our desk well in advance. We see it, and we'll put a deadline on it of Wednesday, I think the mayor said. And then we come back and we vote it up or down. And then the commission is formed, and it's a clear, clean report. The option is we don't defer it tonight. We vote for the commission to be established. And then next week we come up with proposed amendments, and then it comes up for a first reading. Then you wait 2 more weeks, and you come up in 2 weeks after that for a second and third reading. So I use the word expedient, and you're right. We've been anything but
We
expedient.
already got a year and a half into this.
Yeah, but I think we're all are on the same page of what we're trying to accomplish here, and I'm just trying to make it as clean and direct and efficient as we possibly can, because I am going to vote for this commission. You know I'm going to vote for this commission. I've said that. I'm just trying to accommodate some of what I think are people with very good intentions and very good goodwill. You heard me say that 1,000 times.
I know your
goodwill,
heart is.
to incorporate some of these amendments so that we send a very clear message to the community. What we're saying here, we want to be inclusive.
Okay, let them balance my time. I'd like to hear from council members.
Thank you for letting me do that.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you? Because we've
Yeah,
still
but
not
I
heard
still
from
got, I haven't
Councilmember
talked
Sheila.
15 minutes. I haven't talked 15 minutes. I want to hear from Councilmember.
We're going to
Pell.
hear from Councilmember Appel. Point of order, I think when your time is done, I get to be able to recognize someone who hasn't even spoken yet this evening. Councilmember Sheila.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate Councilman Peter Shade's deferral, and I tell you why. I listened in, and I was part of his neighborhood thing, and exactly what he's saying. Anybody that was on there can understand that he didn't have these radical people to one side or the other. He had people that had genuine concerns, and he did a great job, an outstanding job, and several others pitched in on there. I was quiet for the most part, but it was a good conversation on their concerns. A lot of their concerns are exactly what Councilman Appel was saying. If we vote to approve this tonight without these in here, we've got a very controversial situation going on. And we've got people that are going to be upset, and it's not going to be a full buy-in if we don't listen to our constituents' concerns on this. If we say, nope, we're going to push it through and then we're going to change it later, or we're going to add things later. Marvin Wagner used to say, it's not quite baked. Okay. And it only takes a few words to get that cake baked and to get this thing right. And I really believe that if we defer this thing and in 2 weeks get it right, we'll all be much better off. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Appel. He's spoken before, so this is just a follow-up. Oh, did you want to be recognized as well? Okay. Okay, Councilmember Gregory. I think you are. Yeah.
Yes.
She had you on the list. I'll come right back to you next.
Yeah, I agree with Councilman Waring in my review of the amendments. You all should have my comments on these amendments, because I do think that it's a good building block, that we're not going to take it exactly the way it is. There are some things that I may not agree with, but I've already sent to every single person on council my comments to strengthen, not to weaken it, but to strengthen what was submitted by your constituents. So we're in agreement. But I do think we need to vote this thing through and get it out of the way, because we are going to be making amendments to this, not just in 2 weeks, I think going forward. And remember, folks, these are not the only recommended amendments. In all due respect to Councilman Parker, she submitted amendments as well for consideration. So when we talk about amendments, I think we need to talk about all of them and not exclude any of them. In all fairness to Councilman Parker, who had some extensive recommendations with regard to the ordinance. But again, I think we need to vote on it, get it out of the way, and move forward. I have heard, Council Member Appel, and I agree with some of it, but I think when you start restricting totally a commission, okay, shutting them down, particularly when the basis of the special commission was the study done by Avery Institute, which clearly outlined disparities in certain areas, including education. Okay, I totally agree with you of CRT. We're in the same place. But I think when you unilaterally tell the body, okay, that they should not have any discussions or interaction with any entity, I think it's wrong. It is against the law. It's wrong. And we shouldn't be putting that kind of stuff in an ordinance, telling a group, don't talk to them, don't mention X, Y, Z. How can you have a free-flowing experience without discussing things in total? And just to correct folks, the special commission was probably one of the most diverse groups I've ever seen, and a group of professional people who has just as much status as any of us on this council. So I think we do a disservice to their efforts for a year and a half when we use privilege to strap them down. And that's what it's sounding like to me. Privilege. You guys are too high and mighty. We got to shut you down. Been there, done that throughout my entire life. My entire life. And I just think as a council, we need to be careful. If we listen to the generation that was in here today, I'm thankful to God for them, because I think they've gotten the message that there's a need for this commission. So in closing, I think we should vote for this thing now. We will be making amendments upon amendments, and some of the amendments that have been set forward, trust me, it's going to take longer than any meeting that we've ever had on this, based upon some of the recommendations I've seen. So I'm saying, okay, let's get this thing done, because the amendments that I saw from fellow council members, okay, it's going to take a long time for us to start going through them item by item. And those amendments were also submitted for consideration. So in all due respect to Councilman Parker, we can't discount hers. We have to take the amendments in totality. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Let's call the question to defer. We'll have a roll call vote. A follow-up? Yeah.
I was just going to say, I'm very moved by Councilman Shealy's words. What he said is exactly the reason why I've been stating my points at these various meetings. I want Councilman Shealy to vote for this. I think we can get him there. I'm going to get there if we put in the work and we defer this and we fix this ordinance up the way we talked about it. If y'all don't see the value in unity, I don't know what to tell you about that. One other thing, I can't let this go unstated because this needs to be stated for the record. We've heard a lot about how this has been going on for a year and a half. It is true, the commission has been meeting for a year and a half. The first time we saw an ordinance to make this commission permanent was either August or September. I forget about when it was, but we were on Zoom, and I have to say, it was a horrible, horribly drafted ordinance. Do you remember why? Because someone thought it was a good idea to put language in this ordinance that called on the commission to implement the report. The month after the report went down because of defunding the police, because of CRT, because of reparations, someone thought it was going to be cute. We were going to sneak it in through the commission. The commission would have been meeting for multiple months had that thing not been done. Councilman Shade and I, we were planning to vote for the commission that evening, but it was those games. And here's the thing, our job, we're the legislators in this city. It's not staff. It's not the commission. It's our job. What we're doing right now is our job. We debate legislation. We propose ordinances. We make amendments. There's nothing crazy about this. It took longer to get my parking ordinance passed than this commission. So let's stop with this whole, oh, we've been at this for so long. We haven't even gotten started. Okay? So let's get real about this and let's start talking truth.
All right, let's call the question.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. I think we call for the question.
Order. Let's call the question. We'll have a roll call on deferral of this matter.
Councilmember Shealy,
Aye.
Councilmember Saccharin,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
No.
Councilmember Brady,
Aye.
Councilmember Gregory, Councilmember Waring, Councilmember Seekings, Councilmember Shade, Councilmember Bowden,
Nay.
Councilmember Appel, Councilmember Parker,
Aye.
Mayor Tecklenburg.
Motion passes.
Mayor Tech, you have to vote, Mayor.
I'll vote no.
The motion passes.
The measure passes. I'm going to ask everyone here that's got any kind of amendment to make to this matter to have it, our clerk of court, by Tuesday at the latest. Clerk of council, sorry, our clerk of council. By next Tuesday, so we can include it on the agenda package going out next Wednesday. And then we're going to take the time, we're going to vote up or down on each one of the amendments, and then we're going to vote to approve this commission.
Mayor,
Thank y'all very much.
if we get up with the second reading, I would like to take 1 through 8, 1 through 6, and 7 to 8 as amended.
Wait a minute, I have a point of order.
Yes, sir.
Can we do
Councilmember
that on
Ware.
a third reading, Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry?
I'm not asking you. I'm asking a point of order when it comes to all the amendments, because there are going to be quite a few on the issue just discussed.
Yes.
Can we take them one at a time on a third reading and vote them up or down?
That's what I understand. I asked that question specifically a little while ago.
So we can't amend a third reading tonight, but we can amend it in 2 weeks.
This is all about the notice to the public.
Okay, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Mayor, I'll take-
Councilmember Mitchell.
I'll take 1 through 6 and 7 to 8 as amended.
1 through 6 and 7 and 8 as amended. Well, I did have one little correction to make to number 7 myself. So
Okay,
could we
I
take that one
exclude-
separately?
I exclude this 7.
Okay. 1 through 6 and number 8 together. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? And now for third reading and ratification of 1 through 6 and 8. Any questions, discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
my little correction, really, it's not an amendment, to number 7, there was a place in 2-55 where we corrected the number of council members on public works from 4 to 5, but in section 2-50B, it also lists the number of council members, and it should be changed from 4 to 5, so that Councilmember Bowden will be on that committee. 5 council members and the mayor. Right. If that amendment is acceptable to everyone for second reading, do I have a motion? Can I entertain a motion to approve number 7 as amended with that correction to 2-50B? Got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now for third reading and ratification.
So moved.
We have a motion. I'm sorry, Councilmember Brady. As amended. Yes, thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now, I believe our bill up for first reading is has been deferred. Our next regular meeting, as we have discussed at great length, is going to be on Tuesday, February 8th. Now, you all got from Dale Morris a very long letter from the Corps of Engineers, I think just the other day, including the revised map of the Peninsula Protection Plan that they have tentatively approved or offered to us. And I thought that that memo is quite dense, if you will. And then in addition to that memo, I will be sharing with council a letter that we are submitting to the Corps of Engineers, indicating all the things that we have to have from them in order to move to the next level of this study. So I would like to propose that the week after the meeting of the 8th, that we have an additional full meeting, again, just dedicated to the core study. It's pretty complex, and I think we need a little time to sort that out and get a presentation on that. Is that okay with everybody? Assuming that's without objection, our clerk of council will check with y'all in the next day or two and see a day that works for everyone. And if somebody will just fill up about 30 more seconds while I sign the rest of these bills here, we'll be good to go.
And Mr. Mayor, our next council meeting will be on Johns Island.
Oh, that's right. Thanks for that reminder. And y'all, I mentioned in my State of the City address about our mentoring fair. The city has never done this before. It's pretty cool. We've got a number of organizations that do mentoring, and they're all going to be there at Arthur Christopher Gym Saturday, February 6th, and they'll be sharing with the public what kind of work they do, who they mentor to, in the hopes that we'll sign people up to mentor kids in our city this year. So I ask y'all, please, in your own social media networks and et cetera, to pass the word, invite people to come by Arthur Christopher Gym on the 6th, and I'll get Mindy Stern to send you all a little notice that you can maybe email or post on your social media to promote that. Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order?